All right, we got Madly Mesozoic. This was a request. Some people wanted me to watch this video about graboids surviving Tatooine. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. But y'all wanted me to watch it, so let's see what we got.
This video is sponsored by
WAD. Oh, this is hard. That was a cool intro, I ain't gonna lie. That was cool.
Ladies and gentle soars, welcome to Assessing Survival, the series where we take creatures from both our world and fiction, placing them in different periods throughout history, as well as some fantastical settings from outside of reality. In today's episode, we'll be crossing two different fictional worlds by placing the North American Graboids from the Tremors series under the sand.
Oh, from Tremors, okay. I actually have seen, I think I saw some of Tremors 2. I think Caroline Kwan watched Tremors 2, or it might have been the first one. In one of her movie nights. Shout out to Caroline. And I saw some of it, but I wasn't interested. I wasn't locked in, bro. It wasn't my type of movie at all. So I was not locked in, but I'm a little familiar.
And a little bit. Twin sons of Tatooine from Star Wars during the hype.
I haven't watched Star Wars. Any of them. I do want to watch those though. But I actually watched a kind of documentary behind the scenes kind of thing with some extras from the first Star Wars movie, but I haven't actually watched any of the Star Wars movies. Literally. None
of the Galactic Empire.
So I don't know what's going on here.
These guys may be a prolific menace here on Earth, but on a hostile desert planet like Tatooine, they may not have it so easy. I will be using 4 different categories to assess the Graboids' ability to survive. Those categories are environment suitability, strengths and weaknesses, prey items, and threats and competition. These scores will then be added up for a survival assessment score. 1 to 3 being they are unlikely to survive, 4 to 6 being that they can survive but with great to moderate difficulty, and more than 7 being that
because I don't know anything about either of these worlds for real, I'm not gonna do a prediction.
Will survive.
I don't know, man.
Little to no difficulty.
I just don't know.
Of course, towards the end of the video, we'll speculate on how the Graboids may change or adapt to better suit this new environment. Let's first quickly go over the Graboids' life cycle so we can have a better understanding of their capabilities for this assessment. The first stage is, of course, the Graboid stage. Massive, subterranean worm-like creatures
that is
with
disgusting.
Large, powerful bodies and multiple tentacle-like tongues that can extend and grab prey, as well as feel around the surface while the body remains buried. They can
absolutely disgusting.
Feet, or 9 meters in length, and 6 feet, or about 2 meters in diameter. They emerge from their eggs as dirt dragons and will immediately look for food to help sustain them while they grow, taking only 3 months to reach maturity. Graboids are highly sensitive to vibrations and use this sense to hunt by tunneling underground and ambushing prey from below. Gestating within the Graboid form are anywhere between 3 and 12 shriekers. These are smaller, bipedal, above-ground creatures that hunt in packs.
Yeah, I saw some of that movie, but I was not paying attention for real. I wasn't.
Graboid mother, they reach lengths of 2 meters or 6 feet and grow no taller than about 1 meter or 3 feet. Shriekers have infrared vision and are attracted to heat sources. They reproduce asexually, multiplying rapidly by consuming enough food. Following an unknown biological or perhaps environmental trigger, a shrieker will molt into the final life cycle of the Graboids, the ass blaster. Pardon my French. For the sake of keeping that sultry ad revenue, I will be referring to them simply as the blasters or blaster morphs from here on out.
I know it's Fred Ward, but Fred Ward is funnier.
A type of biological jet propulsion method to launch themselves into the air.
I know you like what?
Referring to them simply as the blasters or blaster morphs.
Nah, bruh.
They are called this because they use a type of biological jet propulsion method to launch themselves into the air.
This is so goofy.
Will go on to lay eggs that will eventually hatch into new Graboids, thus completing the life cycle. Now, that was an incredibly short summary of a topic that deserves much more detail. For the sake of keeping my own video at a reasonable length, if you'd like to know more about the Graboids and their life cycle, I highly recommend Sci-Fi Safari's video covering them.
Yeah, I'm not that interested. W ad though, or not really ad, but W shout out.
Environment suitability. Now, in terms of weather, the Graboids will have it pretty good. Tremors 1 through 4 all take place in the Badlands of either Nevada or Mexico, where the temperature typically peaks around 104 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer and dips as low as 27 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter. That's 40 to -2 degrees Celsius. Tatooine does not experience seasons, so they won't have to deal with a winter dip in temperature. Surface temperatures on Tatooine's habitable northern hemisphere can reach temperatures of over 130 degrees Fahrenheit or 54 degrees Celsius during the day. While it is mentioned that Tatooine is cold at night, there is no information on just how cold. Whenever we do see Tatooine at night, we don't see characters' breath condense in the cold air, so we can assume it doesn't get nearly as cold as it does in Nevada. On Earth, they're relegated to the few deserts in the world, and on Tatooine, the entire planet is their preferred habitat.
Yeah.
Environment suitability score, 10 out of 10.
Yeah. They're already kind of OP.
The rest of the assessment, I'd like to take a minute to tell you guys about today's video sponsor.
WAD, bro. Click the thing. Put the thing in the thing and get your thing, bro.
Tapioca pudding recipe, tea, or motion.
Tapioca put. You know what?
Safe and
I don't even want to know, bro.
Fantastic product.
WAD though.
Also to support me.
Do the thing, bro.
All right, now let's get back into the assessment. Strengths and weaknesses. Now, because these guys have so many different forms, this is going to be a long one. So let's start with the subterranean form. Obviously, the Graboids have the ability to tunnel through sand and sediment. They can move rapidly underground, using their powerful bodies to move through the earth at 15 to 20 miles per hour.
Why are they that fast?
Kilometers per hour.
I feel like that's too fast for their size, bro.
Very difficult to outrun, as well as take on in a conflict. A Graboid will be able to grab most prey items from beneath before they even have a chance to react. In this form, they have an acute ability to sense vibrations in the ground, allowing them to detect and accurately locate prey from great distances. They are also incredibly strong, being able to pull large vehicles beneath the earth, as well as uproot smaller buildings from their foundations. They are incredibly durable.
What's that game that we all used to play? It's like, oh my god, I can't think of the name of it. But it was a game like that where like you'd be like a void in the ground, and then you could like eat other stuff to get bigger, like cars and then buildings and all that, and then other voids and stuff. Y'all played that game, bro. I know y'all played that game. What's the name of that game? It's like Slither Die is like that type of vibe, but instead of snakes, it's like voids. Like black holes just in cities and stuff. Y'all know what game I'm talking about, man. It's like that.
Conventional weaponry,
that's crazy.
Often requiring high caliber bullets or explosives
those are massive.
to inflict any real damage. Graboids have 3 tentacles in their mouth that could be mistaken for being their own individual organisms, each ending in their own set of jaws that can
it looks like an Alaskan bullworm.
Be extended as far as
oh my god, is the Alaskan bullworm based off of this?
30 feet out of the mouth of the Graboid.
No. Low key, you should put the Alaskan bullworm in I don't know. I don't even know where. Somewhere. That'd be cool.
Grab prey and pull them into the maw of their main body. Then, finally, there is their remarkable intelligence. A Graboid is pretty quick to learn from being tricked and is not so easily tricked by the same means again. While Graboids use vibration to locate their prey, this can also be used against them. Loud or high enough frequency noises will seemingly irritate or even hurt them. Graboids cannot run through solid terrain or things like concrete.
Oh, okay.
As we see in the movies, if a Graboid rams into these obstacles fast enough, it will kill them. Prey items will be able to find safety in buildings with solid foundations or on rocky terrains where Graboids cannot reach them.
Okay.
Now, let's move on to their next stage, the Shrieker. Shriekers trade in their vibrational sensitivity for a specialized organ.
These are so gross looking.
Allowing them to see prey based on body heat, which makes them effective hunters regardless of visual obstacles or low light conditions. Shriekers reproduce asexually and only need enough calories to do so. Once they consume enough food, they can multiply quickly, turning a single Shrieker into a large swarm in a short period. These swarms hunt together, which makes them incredibly dangerous as they coordinate attacks and overwhelm prey.
Oh my goodness.
However, the Shriekers' above-ground lifestyle would make them very vulnerable to the animals and inhabitants of Tatooine. They are far less durable than their subterranean parents, making them easier to take down for both humanoids and predators. Because they can only perceive the world by detecting heat,
on the Volvo? Really? That's such a nice car, bro.
They will attack anything that gets off enough of it. This includes things like engines and electronics.
I kind of want a Volvo 240, and I want to like slam it to the ground, and I don't know, maybe put a LS in it. Yeah, I'd put a LS3 in a Volvo 240 and slam it to the ground. I feel like that would be really funny. and look cool, and it would sound cool too.
which at first makes them seem smart.
See that this is more my. I'm a car guy, man. When we get to talking about all this, hey man, I don't know.
Out critical
I'm
infrastructure,
lost.
but really they're just so dumb they seem smart. The Shriekers might get themselves killed attacking a large animal they have no business fighting.
Yikes.
And finally, there is the Blaster Morph. Of course, there is their ability to fly.
There's really a lot of images of these guys, unfortunately. I don't want to keep using movie footage. That's fair.
Allows them to either attack from above or quickly retreat if
That looks
need be.
even
This ability
more
can
disgusting.
also be weaponized using the heat from this chemical reaction to burn their opponents in a conflict. However, they can only use this ability a few times before having to rest and allow time for the chemicals in their bladder to fill up again. While on the ground, they can be vulnerable to attacks from predators, as not only
they have a
are they less
cooldown.
durable than the Shrieker form, but they also do not move in groups like them. Given what we talked about in this category, the Graboids will be a pretty formidable invasive species on Tatooine, and we'll see more about how their strengths and weaknesses come into play in the next two categories.
Okay.
Strengths and weaknesses score 8 out of 10.
Dude, they're OP. They're OP. They're OP. Already, they're OP.
Now, there are surprisingly a lot of animals on Tatooine, so I'm going to try and shorten the list down.
Some are canon, some aren't. Really, I just cherry picked ones that'd be good for the video. That's real.
Just the animals that are reasonably well.
I mean, I wouldn't know the difference.
Have enough information. Of course, the easy prey items for all the Graboid morphs are going to be things like Womp Rats, Zuka Boars, Fabos, as well as any small pets that the residents of Tatooine may have, really only serving to satiate the Graboids and their offspring while they look for more bountiful prey. Then there are more mid-sized animals as well as humanoids. Animals will include Massives, Eopes, Gerbas, and Cupas. Most of these animals are beasts of burden for sentient species like humans.
See, I don't know what any of these are talking about, but all I know is some of these things got tools and weapons, bro. That's gotta work, right?
But wild populations
that's gotta help.
For wild Eopes, Gerbas, and Cupas, they'll be easy pickings for Graboids. Even the predatory Massives wouldn't know what to do about a giant worm preying upon them from below. For Shriekers, that's true. On how many of them are in a group. Eopes and Gerbas are likely a fairly easy meal for just one Shrieker, but Massive and Cubas would be able to fight back. Cupas, an arid relative of the Tauntaun, have powerful kicks as well as goat-like horns to keep attackers at bay.
That also looks gross.
Are a bit bigger and heavier than Shriekers and also hunt in packs, but have the advantage of...
This looks like a gross version of that one shark thing from Marvel Rivals, I think it's from. I don't know. I don't play that game either. But I think y'all know who I'm talking about, man. Shark. I'm just look up shark and it should pop up, right? Images. Okay, no, those are just actual sharks. Let me say Marvel. Shark Marvel Rivals. Yeah, Jeff, man. This thing looks like a ugly, more detailed version of Jeff. Does it not? I thought it's kind of like Jeff, man. Shout out to Jeff.
Sight.
I don't know what he does, but
unless the Shriekers had overwhelming numbers, I think a pack of wild Massives would take down a similar sized group of Shriekers. The Blasters would be in a tougher situation here, as they are solitary and might not be able to take on more dangerous animals like Cupas and Massives. Domesticated versions of these animals would be harder to take down because they would of course be escorted by sentient species. I'm going to talk about the inhabitants on Tatooine more in the next category, but I'll speak briefly about them here. This wouldn't change much for the Graboid,
this art is sick.
They have no issues
this looks hard.
Regular folks armed with small caliber weapons. People roaming the desert unprepared, Jawas outside of their sandcrawlers, and Tusken Raiders will be most at risk for Graboid attacks. Unless they're packing some serious blaster power, but even then they can only make use of those blasters if the Graboids are surfaced. Shriekers and Blaster Morphs are going to have a rough time with the desert-dwelling inhabitants of Tatooine. Blasters in Star Wars generally do more damage than their real-world counterparts. Your average blaster in Star Wars packs way more of a punch than, say, a 9mm or 38 Special, making it riskier for the later morphs to take on settlers. Tusken Raiders, unless it was a swarm of Shriekers, would be a serious challenge. Their slug throwers would make quick work of a Shrieker or Blaster, and their massive hounds would be able to detect a group of Shriekers or a Blaster moving towards the camp before they even realized the camp was there. Then there are, of course, the much larger animals like Banthas, Rontos, Dewbacks, and potentially Sarlaccs. Again, for the Graboids, there wouldn't be much these guys could do. There's not a lot of information on how well Banthas or Dewbacks can defend themselves, but a Graboid or two could pretty easily pull them beneath the sand before they could try. A large enough swarm of Shriekers could probably take these guys down.
That's literally their only, like, offensive W is they attack from below, bro. Literally. I feel like if they were to attack just head on, it would be way easier to kind of have an edge on them.
Rip chunks through large vehicles like Bert and Pedro's trucks.
I feel I was denied critical, need-to-know information.
Blasters, once again, because they are solitary, probably
From what I did see, that movie was funny. I think it was the second one. I don't remember that. But again, I wasn't paying attention. But I think it was the second movie. And from what I was kind of paying attention to, it was funny.
taking down such a large
But I wasn't into it.
I want to talk about Sarlaccs. While Shriekers and Blasters would definitely fall victim to Sarlaccs, a group of or even a single Graboid may be able to easily chow down on a planted adult Sarlacc.
Is this what they look like under the ground? Oh, nah, bruh.
No resistance.
What is this thing?
As far as we know, Sarlaccs don't really have any defenses against large subterranean animals. We know this because the much larger Greater Crate Dragon will devour Sarlacc pits from beneath the terrain. So, despite the Shrieker and Blaster morphs being a little worse off on Tatooine than they are on Earth, the species as a whole might be in a better position in terms of the prey items available to them. There are many large animals like banthas and dewbacks that are not available to them in their ranges on Earth. Though they could certainly prey on humans and humanoids, they are much more of a threat in the Star Wars universe than they are on Earth.
At this point, we need Venom to take Godzilla as a host and fight these things. At this point, because bro, it's OP. It's OP.
The Venom species is going to have three major threats, as well as limited competition from some other carnivores on Tatooine: sand beasts and sand demons. Sand beasts, also known as sand apes, are large six-legged ambush predators that hide beneath the sand and wait for prey items to come close to them, which is sort of similar to our Precambrian friends. Towering over most humanoid species, these guys would make quick work of Shriekers and Blasters alike. However, with Graboids, the interaction between these two may be rare. Sand beasts lie completely still in the sand for long periods of time, and Graboids rely on vibrations to locate prey. If they come across a sand beast lying beneath the surface, they'll have no reason to believe they're any different from a rock. This would come into play with the Shriekers and Blasters too, as they wouldn't be able to see the sand beast through the sand. If the two do get into a conflict, the Sand Beast is a pretty powerful creature.
I think it will win.
So I think it could go either way. Either Graboids get the jump on the Sand Beast and pulls it beneath the earth before it can react, or the Sand Beast overpowers the Graboid, maybe even pulling it out of the sand. But like I said, I don't think the conflict would be very commonplace given their lifestyle.
Come on,
then there are Sand Demons, a semi-sentient insectoid species, say that 10 times fast, closely. But like I said, I don't think the conflict would be very commonplace given their lifestyles. Then there are Sand Demons, a semi-sentient insectoid species, say that 10 times
also fast, it's gross.
Related to the
all these things look gross, man.
It can vary in size pretty greatly.
Why is it built like that? Why you bald?
Human to several times larger than them. These guys also burrow through sand like the Graboids, but can also bore through solid rock. At one point in galactic history, these guys were considered to be the very top of the Tatooine food chain, even hunting greater crate dragons and swarms. But by the time of the Galactic Empire, they became very, very rare. This is presumably because both Jedi and Tusken Raiders would hunt sand demons in order to engage in the Demon's Blood ritual, many thousands of years before the Battle of Yavin. In the off chance that Graboids in the life stage encounter a sand demon, there's a very low chance that they come out on top. Alright, now that those guys are out of the way, let's talk about the heavy hitters. Great Dragons, Rancors, and Tatooine's urban settlers. Let's start with Rancors. Of course, we all know about Jabba's Rancor, but there are in fact wild Rancors roaming on Tatooine. Though they're native to Dathomir, Rancors have been spread
this art looks hard, but like, what is that?
Planets throughout the galaxy by means of an exotic animal trade. There are many different subspecies of Rancor that vary greatly in size, but the average Dathomiri Rancor is about 5 meters or 16 feet tall, and between 3,600 to 4,000 pounds.
Wow, that's almost as heavy as the new BMW M5.
1,500 kilograms. They possess immense strength and power, being able to rip apart small starfighters and war droids alike. It would be incredibly difficult for even an adult Graboid to pull them beneath the sand. I can honestly imagine a large and strong enough Rancor ripping a Graboid trying to attack it out of the sand and straight body slamming it. Of course, Graboids are also pretty large, being 30 feet long and weighing over 10 tons. The Graboid isn't a pushover either. I think this fight could go either way, but more so in the Rancor's favor.
I want to see that fight.
Blasters would honestly just be snacks for these guys. Rancors could take on a whole squadron of stormtroopers and tank the blaster fire, which presumably would translate well into taking a swarm of Shriekers. Then there are the Crate Dragons, both the Canyon Crate Dragon and the Greater Crate Dragon. Canyon crate dragons, though smaller than their greater cousin.
Okay, this just looks fire. I ain't gonna lie. This is the first thing that looks kind of normal.
Average 10 meters or 32 feet tall.
Okay.
And 30 meters or almost 100 feet long.
Now we're talking.
Canyon crate dragons inhabit more rocky terrain, like canyons, as well as.
It kind of looks like a big lizard.
The large sandworms simply won't be able to venture into these areas. On the off chance that graboids or their offspring do venture into canyon crate territory, there's no fight to be had.
Nah.
Pretty easily dig up and dispatch a
Yeah, that's
graboid
over with.
and take on several dozens of shriekers.
That's over with.
Crate dragon swims beneath the dunes of Tatooine in a similar fashion to the graboids. As we saw in The Mandalorian, they are gargantuan. They reach lengths of up to 100 meters or 330 feet long, sporting a massive skull the size of a small freighter, able to swallow a bantha whole. I think the graboids would just become regular prey items for the greater crate, given the massive difference in size and their similar lifestyles. They may even actively look for graboids and slurp them up like 30-foot-long udon noodles in the sand. Sorry, I would have loved to have said more about an interaction between the crate dragons and the graboids, but there's really not a lot
they
to
make
be
those
said.
things look puny, bro.
Come to the inhabitants of the cities, towns, or other permanent
All right,
settlements.
here we go.
Upon their initial introduction, graboids will wreak havoc on a large scale as the people of Tatooine learn to deal with them, causing millions upon millions of credits worth of damage and potentially killing thousands of people.
Yikes.
It won't be long at all before either the Empire or the Hutts take action. As you can imagine, such damage would make peacekeeping very difficult for the Empire's garrison, as well as take a dip into Jabba's profits.
Wow.
The Star Wars universe is of course much more technologically advanced than ours. They have access to a lot of things that would make keeping graboids out of cities pretty easy. In the Tremors movies, characters make use of seismoreaders to detect graboids moving through the soil. Undoubtedly, the Empire or Hutts would be able to acquire or already have something similar. Both organizations would either hire Trandoshan hunters or train military personnel to hunt both graboids and shriekers, probably with an emphasis on taking out blasters in order to mitigate their spread. Smaller towns and moisture farmers might invest into trading for Tusken massives, or bringing in animals like lurkerhounds from off-world to act as sentries to warn them of any incoming graboid or shrieker swarms. But there is an even more efficient tool the people of Tatooine could use to keep them out of settlements, and those are sensor beacons. In Season 3, Episode 5 of The Bad Batch, Clone Force 99 heads to an abandoned outpost on Barton 4, an icy planet inhabited by ice worms. An animal very similar to the graboids who tunnel
Okay,
through
that's
ice
legitimately an Alaskan bullworm with armor on.
instead of sand.
Why does
and
it have
use
armor?
vibration and noise to locate prey. The Empire keeps these ice worms out by means of sensor beacons, which emit a very high frequency noise. Given what we know about graboids, these would definitely be effective against them as well. The Empire would likely place these sensor beacons in a wide radius around important settlements, as well as sell them to Jabba the Hutt, who would do the same for smaller settlements in order to protect his territory and profits. Tusken Raiders, moisture farmers, and Jawas would also very likely purchase or steal these sensor beacons, lest they be the only ones on the planet vulnerable to graboid attacks. The Empire might even produce portable sensor beacons that can be held on the waist or installed in speeders. Knowing the Empire and their shady means of conducting warfare and peacekeeping, they may even try to capture, breed, and modify graboids for nefarious purposes. So, to summarize, graboids and shriekers will no longer be on top of the food chain on Tatooine, and going after humans and settlements would be infinitely more difficult than it is in the Badlands of Nevada or Mexico. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a done deal for them.
I'm about to say, this sounds good.
Score 3.5
Finally. Okay, they're not that OP. They're so OP though.
Their overall survival assessment
like a 9, bro.
7 out of 10.
Oh, 7. I'm still though.
Graboids and their subsequent shrieker and blast
basically OP.
Despite having some pretty steep competition and likely pretty intense opposition from the people of Tatooine, are actually far better off on Tatooine than they are on Earth. Graboids, at least the North American species, are relegated to the deserts in western United States and arid badlands of Mexico. On Tatooine, not only do they have the whole northern hemisphere of the planet to roam, but there's also many more options for them in terms of food. They don't necessarily need to overrun the planet to be successful. They would fit pretty comfortably in the crazy desert ecosystem in a galaxy far, far away. Now, for the Spec Evo section, it's going to be a little different for this episode. Because the events of Star Wars take place over the course of thousands of years rather than millions, we're gonna go ahead and call it speculative scenarios or adaptation, because most of these changes are going to take place over the course of some small number of years during the reign of the Empire, rather than millions of years.
Makes sense.
How are they going to evolve in such a short amount of time? the Force or something. I don't know, that's how Disney justifies poor writing, so that's how
Not
I'm gonna do it.
low-key.
That's not how the Force works.
Okay, let's talk about it, man.
The Sarlacc tongueworm.
Pause. That sounds suggestive. That sounds like a toy you'd buy on a certain website. I'm not going to say what website, but y'all know what website I'm talking about. Hey, I don't know about that.
One graboid,
I don't know about
upon
that.
discovering a sarlacc
Hey,
for the
yo.
first time, eats its way up through the bottom of the planted beast, eventually coming to its mouth. The graboid then ate the sarlacc's tongue and beak and found itself in the exposed maw. While it was doing this, the sarlacc was in the process of pulling in an unlucky bantha and its Tusken rider to feast on. The graboid took advantage of this and ate them instead, but found itself unable to move from its position. The sarlacc, desperately trying to feed itself in order to heal from the wounds inflicted by the graboid, only continues to nourish its new parasite. This is a pretty sweet deal for the graboid. It gets to sit in one place and nourish itself without having to expend any energy. The graboid remains in this spot until the shrieker eggs fully gestate. The shriekers then eat the inside of the sarlacc as much as possible until they molt into blasters. And these newly molted blasters will shoot out from the mouth of the sarlacc. These blasters are imbued with a sort of genetic memory of the first graboid's success in parasitizing the sarlacc, and go on to seek out sarlaccs to lay their eggs in. Over a few generations, we have a graboid species that is specialized in parasitism, giving us the sarlacc tongueworm. This is, of course, inspired by the real-world fish tongue-eating louse.
Wow.
These guys trade the scales they once used for digging for retractable spikes that help them better anchor themselves in the mouth of their host after eating their tongue and beak. Their bodies become much longer and more slender in order to reach out of the mouth and grab nearby prey items.
Yeah, this is gross.
In order to extend the amount of time in which they can feed from the sarlacc, the tongueworm will divert a minimal amount of nutrients to their host through the anchoring spikes. This allows them to take advantage of their host for most of their 20 to 50,000 year lifespan. These guys, while they may be a menace to the sarlaccs, are largely harmless towards the people of Tatooine and the galaxy at large, which cannot be said for the next species.
Interesting.
During their initial emergence on Tatooine and subsequent outbreaks in local settlements, some blasters as well as shriekers found their way into
Is this a shot from a movie or a show, or is this like a art piece someone did? I don't know.
spaceports and shuttle bays. Their
Looks
heat-based
awesome, though.
senses picked up on the fuel reserves of the starships parked in these areas, and they began to rip them up in search of some sort of sustenance. This included the Cluzon 36 stores that allowed these ships to jump into hyperspace.
Matter of fact, put the Alaskan bullworm in the Fallout universe. That will be kind of tough. Loki, imagine just goes through and he's what were the thing I don't know, I forgot. I never really played Fallout, and I played some of Fallout New Vegas and I did not enjoy it at all, so I uninstalled it. And I watched the Fallout show months ago, so I kind of forgot a lot of the details. But you know, put the Alaskan bullworm in the Fallout, so that would be cool.
For the blasters, the Cluzon
That would be
36
interesting.
fused with the chemicals in their bladders, and when the blasters took off to flee the scene, they jumped into hyperspace. This unexpected journey took the blasters on a trip to other planets.
Wow.
Did you see that shit? No. What are you listening to?
Playboy Cardi.
Where they laid eggs that hatched more graboids. The Cluzon 36 seemed to have some sort of mutagenic effect on the DNA of these graboids, as after the subsequent graboids matured and gave way to shriekers, only two much larger shriekers came from the graboid. These much larger variants, called hyper shriekers, are almost triple the size of their Earth and Tatooine counterparts. Hyper shriekers hunt and feast for up to 3 weeks before beginning their molting process.
Yikes.
This process can take up to 72 hours, and once it's complete, the cocoon will produce a hyper blaster. Hyper blasters are massive, reaching up to 30 feet or 9 meters in length, and 18 feet or 5.5
All
meters
right,
in
now
length, weighing up to 3,300 pounds or 1,500 kilograms. They
half
are
the weight of a new
incredibly
BMW
durable and
M5.
resistant to blaster fire, being able to tank most small arms fire. This is because
Yikes.
hyper blasters will immediately begin searching for either parked starships or Cluzon 36 stores, and that means running into large settlements. Most hyperblasters will not get the opportunity to acquire any of the hyperspace fuel during their lifetime.
Okay.
More often than not, they
That's
will
good,
lay
though.
their eggs on the same planet they were born on. But about 1 in every 100 or so hyperblasters do get a hold of Cluzon-36. They will store as much of it in their bladders as possible before taking off into space, jumping to hyperspeed in order to bring the Graboid invasion to a new planet. In order to mitigate their spread, the Empire has bulked up on security around Cluzon-36 storage facilities as well as spaceports. Most of these facilities are now garrisoned with stormtroopers or Imperial Army personnel, equipped with high-voltage firepowers like E-Web heavy repeaters, disruptor rifles, and DF-9 turret emplacements. Imperial
Those sound
fleets
strong.
in orbit of key planets like Coruscant or Corellia are ordered to regularly check radar and patrol for hyperblasters, and to dispatch them or capture
noob
them on
down.
sight. Hyperblasters have become a
Get
regular
wrecked, kid.
problem for many planets in the galaxy, but the people of the galaxy have been fairly well educated and are familiar with the protocols for taking care of them. Our next species, or more so scenario, is a little bit more covert. Project World Serpent, or the Zol Sarath.
Oh,
Once the
nah.
Empire and Hutt cartel got a hold of the Graboid outbreak on Tatooine, good old Sheev quickly caught wind of the existence of these strange subterranean animals. Ordering specimens to be detained and studied by the Imperial Science
Hold
Bureau,
on,
Palpatine believed
wait a minute. What are
good old
these?
Sheev quickly caught wind of the
Oh, these look
existence of
hard.
these strange subterranean animals. Ordering
Bro, what? I ain't never seen those. These are not stormtroopers. Who are they? They look awesome, bro.
specimens to be detained and studied by
Fit
the
is
Imperial
tough.
Science Bureau.
I'd wear that.
Palpatine believed that these
I would.
animals could be modified and used as a means of biological warfare against an increasingly exigent rebellion. Using the advanced cloning and genetic modification technology of the Kaminoans, the Imperial Science Bureau worked hard to create Palpatine's new monster, codenamed Project World Serpent. Combining the DNA of many of the galaxy's most dangerous creatures with that of the Graboid, the ISB gave Palpatine his weapon, which he dubbed the Zol Sarath, which roughly translates to Great Serpent in a forgotten darkside language known only to him. The purpose of this hybridized monstrosity was to act as a more covert, biological alternative to the planet-busting power of the Death Star, to be deployed on planets that are either known rebel hideouts or sympathetic towards the rebellion. The Zol Sarath can reach up to 300 meters or 985 feet in length. To give the
Massive.
World Serpent this titanic size, the geneticists spliced their DNA with that of the Krayt Dragon, as well
With
as
Titanic size, just put an iceberg somewhere.
To surpass the environmental limitations of the Graboid, they included the DNA of the ice worm from Barton 4 and the sand demon of Tatooine. This allows them to burrow through hard terrain
Yikes.
like rock and ice,
Yikes.
greatly increasing the range of planets that
Never mind on the
they
iceberg.
can be deployed to. In order to
GG's.
resist the heavy munitions of any would-be rebel bases or fleets, the ISB included the DNA of the Zillo Beast as well as the Rishi Eel, both animals being known for their incredibly durable and blaster-resistant armor
puke.
plates. This has made the hide of the Zol Sarath impervious to any conventional weapon the rebellion has access to, short of nuclear missiles or turbo laser bombardment. One Imperial agent will bring a single egg to a rebel cell planet by means of either a stealth vessel, espionage, or smuggling. The egg itself is no different in size from a regular Graboid egg, and for the first 3 months after hatching, they will be no larger than the Tatooine species. After 3 months, the Graboid will grow exponentially larger, taking only another 3 months to reach full size. During this time, it will feed on absolutely anything it can: wildlife, forest, and even non-biological materials like rock and metal. The Zol Sarath will be drawn to the
Yikes.
radio frequencies of large settlements and military bases, where it will wreak havoc.
We need a
leaving
nuke,
craters
bro.
where infrastructure used to be. When the Zol
Timer,
Sarath
please.
reaches roughly 9 months old,
Somebody get him on the phone.
die, and thousands of shriekers will burst from its corpse,
Oh
creating an ocean
my.
of death, which will give way to more Zol Sarath.
Oh
Thousands of
my.
Depending on the population density and the local garrison forces, it will take between 2 to 4 years for the Zol Sarath to decimate all life on the planet. Once the worms inevitably starve to death, the Empire will come in to mine whatever resources are left, and the planet will be forgotten and lost to galactic history. Though the Zol Sarath was incredibly effective at destroying planets, it, along with many other Imperial projects, did not see regular use after the building of the Death Star, only being deployed maybe 2 or 3 times. After the fall of the Empire, the New Republic presumably took over the ISB's research on Graboids, and who knows, they might be up to something with them as well. Thank you guys once again for
Very
tuning into this
interesting, man.
episode of Assessing Survival. If you enjoyed the video, do me a huge favor,
was interesting.
like and a comment,
Like I said,
subscribe if you
I
haven't
wasn't familiar
already.
with either
Also,
of these
don't forget to
universes
check out
for real.
Surfshark VPN.
This was interesting.
Click the link in the
I'll say
description
that.
or use my code
And gross.
Mesozoic at checkout.
Very
To
disgusting.
get 4 months off your subscription for free. Big shout out to our patrons.
W-ad.
Which include Fluffy
W
Dino,
patrons, bro. Don't
Lex
drop the bomb
Gunn,
for them.
Galactic Narwhal, Green Turret,
Fiends.
the Juan Kaiser, Mr. Matt, and Skadu Master. Once again, thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.
Cool video, man. I'm not gonna lie. Very interesting, very weird. Like I said, not very familiar with all this stuff. But, you know, Madly Mesozoic, as usual, makes these things seem, you know, a lot simpler than they probably are. And wait a minute, he put something in Fallout New Vegas. Death Claws. I don't know what that is. Again, though, looks gross. Hey, man, I don't know, bro. What's up with all this gross stuff, man? What's up with all this all these gross looking characters, bro? What happened to all the cute looking, you know? Matter of fact, he should put the roaches from SpongeBob. Remember when he had what's his name? Mermaid Man's belt and made everything smaller, and then the roaches were eating tiny Krabby Patties. He should put those roaches in some other universe. I don't know. I don't know what. Yeah, I'm a SpongeBob fan, man, obviously. So I don't know. I feel like that would be cool. But I just don't know where though. Because I mean they're roaches. Everyone knows roaches can survive pretty much everything, right? And they're cute. So like at least those roaches are. Regular roaches, not a fan. Don't tell Maya, because she will not like that. But I'm sorry. All the roaches at Alveus, not that cute in my opinion. That's just me. But anyway, W video.